Okay, welcome to the deep dive. We're diving headfirst into a stack of recent, pretty fascinating headlines from the crypto space.
All sourced straight from CoinMarketCap, yeah. Giving us a snapshot of, what, June 7th and 8th, 2025?
Exactly. And think of this as, sifting through that news feed.
Trying to find the real signal in all the noise.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to unpack a few key snippets, understand what each one means on its own.
And then kind of see if they fit together, right? See if they paint a bigger picture of where the crypto market actually is right now.
And it's quite a mix we've got from these sources.
Okay, yeah.
We've got signals from the broader market, some big corporate strategy news.
Okay.
A look at specific assets, how they're moving, and even a link to real estate, the physical world.
Wow, okay. That is diverse. So when should we start? Maybe ground ourselves in that broader market context.
Yeah, let's do that. The first thing that really jumps out is how much focus there is on just waiting.
Waiting. For what specifically?
Waiting for the upcoming US CPI data release.
Ugh, the CPI. And this waiting game, it's actually a really crucial point. It's fascinating, isn't it, how this traditional economic data point
Yeah.
has become such a major thing for the crypto market. The CPI, the Consumer Price Index, it's basically, how we measure inflation.
Right, which is the big factor, of course, influencing what the Federal Reserve might do, interest rates and all that.
Exactly, and that's the link. If inflation's high, the Fed feels pressure, maybe keeps rates high or hikes them.
Which tends to make riskier assets like crypto look a bit less attractive compared to safer stuff like bonds, right?
Precisely. But if CPI shows inflation cooling off, well, that could give the Fed some breathing room. Maybe hints at rate cuts down the line.
And that's usually seen as good news for markets like crypto.
Typically, yeah. So right now, a big part of the market posture seems to be just holding its breath, waiting on this key piece of macro data.
Okay. That sets the scene, the macro backdrop. Now let's shift gears. What about a major player within the crypto space?
Like who?
The sources mentioned Tether. Specifically, the CEO, Paolo Ardoino, saying on June 7th that Tether has no plans for an IPO.
Right. That's a really significant strategic call, especially when you put it next to their main competitor.
Exactly, because the sources also mentioned that Circle, Tether's competitor, well, they recently did go public on the NYSE.
Well, precisely. So you've got the two biggest stablecoin issuers, and they're taking completely opposite paths regarding public markets. Circle's embracing the traditional route.
And Tether's explicitly saying, nope, not interested.
And what's really striking, as the source points out, is Ardoino's extra comment that even a $515 billion valuation for Tether would be, quote, a bit bearish.
Hang on. A bit bearish.
Yeah.
On $500 billion. That sounds, well, almost unbelievable to most people.
It really does, doesn't it? But that comment, it isn't just throwing out a massive number, I think.
What do you mean?
It signals this deep internal belief that Tether's potential value, its future growth, it's way, way higher than even that $500 billion mark. So by saying that, while rejecting an IPO, it suggests they're confident they can unlock that massive perceived value just through private operations, staying dominant. They don't feel they need public market cash or validation right now.
Oh. That's a bold stance.
It really is. It says a lot about their outlook.
Okay, so that puts these into perspective on the corporate side. Moving away from strategy, let's look at how some specific assets are behaving in this climate.
All right.
The sources flag notable price volatility for Ripple's XRP. They mentioned analysts are watching key resistance levels, market sentiment, all happening now in June 2025.
Yeah, and that's a good example, isn't it? Even with the big macro picture kind of looming over everything.
Yeah.
Individual assets like XRP are still dancing to their own tune, reacting to technicals, project sentiment. XRP's been around a while,
Sure.
and its price moves are still heavily analyzed using charts, market psychology. It suggests technical trading is still a really significant force for assets like this.
All right. And speaking of market forces and risk, there's one headline that really catches the eye.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
James Nguyen opening a Bitcoin position with,
Right.
wait for it, 40x leverage.
Wow, 40x. That's an incredibly high-risk play.
Can you maybe just briefly explain what that means? 40x leverage.
Sure. It means you're basically trading with 40 times the amount of capital you actually put up yourself.
Okay.
So if Bitcoin ticks up even a little bit, your gains get magnified hugely. But, and this is the big but, if it moves down even slightly, you can get liquidated, wiped out, lose your initial capital completely.
Oof. Okay.
So the sources highlighting this specific trade, It just shows that even with all the broader market uncertainty, these high-stakes speculative bets, they're definitely still happening.
And generating buzz.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And drawing significant discussion, it shows the appetite for big risk hasn't completely disappeared for everyone.
We also saw, just a quick mention about SUI, price predictions for 2026 showing mixed sentiment,
Ah, yes.
specifically after a hack fallout.
Yeah, that's brief, but it's an important note. It shows how specific project-level events, like a security incident, this hack fallout affecting SUI, can directly hit market sentiment and price forecasts.
Regardless of wider trends.
Exactly. It reminds you that, fundamental project, health, security, those things are still critical. It's not all just macro.
And interestingly, that same headline just quickly mentioned something called Quebetic's wallet architecture.
Right, it just sort of tacked it on there. The source didn't really explain it, but maybe it implies it's related infrastructure or something developing in that SUI ecosystem, perhaps. Hard to say from just the mention.
Okay. Let's pull the lens back a bit from specific assets. What about the broader altcoin landscape?
Yeah, the sources touch on that too.
They point out that June 2025 is shaping up to be a pivotal month for altcoin watchers.
And what's encouraging there, and the sources seem to emphasize this, is that it's not just about random pumps. They're talking about looking for real signals, ongoing development, expanding ecosystems. It suggests a focus on projects actually showing real, tangible progress.
Not just speculative hype.
Exactly. It's about identifying projects that are genuinely building something, getting traction.
And the sources actually name a few altcoins they see as gaining serious ground or potentially ready to, well, explode.
Oh, which ones?
Blockdag, Cosmos, Aptos, and Abo.
Okay. That's an interesting mix. You've got layer ones there like Cosmos and Aptos focusing on scale, interoperability, Above, which is obviously a giant in DeFi, and Blockdag. Sounds like maybe a newer one getting some buzz.
Seems like it.
So the source grouping those together, it suggests they represent different areas where these real signals of development and potential growth are being seen in the altcoin market right now.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, let's look at something connecting crypto tech more directly to the physical world.
Okay, intrigued.
There's this staggering figure reported in one source, $18 billion.
$18 billion of what?
In Dubai, real estate sales.
Oh.
Just in the month of May.
Wow. $18 billion in 1 month. That is an enormous number.
It really is. And what's particularly compelling, the way the source presents it, is that this massive sales figure is put right alongside a mention of a significant tokenization push happening in Dubai.
Ah, okay. So they're not explicitly saying A caused B.
No, not
Right.
directly. But putting those two facts side by side like that, it strongly implies there might be a connection, right? Or at least an interplay.
It absolutely does. It makes you ask the question, is this tokenization push contributing somehow to that booming real estate market?
How could it?
Well, maybe by bringing in new types of investors, making ownership easier to split up, more fractional, increasing liquidity.
So maybe it's simpler.
How so?
Maybe Dubai just happens to have a red-hot property market, and completely separately, they're also aggressively pushing tokenization tech for the future.
That's possible too. The source doesn't say definitively, but just leaving those two big facts next to each other, it really encourages you to consider that digital innovation might be starting to have a real material impact on traditional, massive physical asset markets like real estate.
Which would be a huge deal for the technology.
Absolutely. A really significant potential area for growth and validation.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We really have.
From waiting on global economic data,
To a stablecoin giant's big strategic decision.
individual coin volatility, super high-risk leverage plays,
So altcoins showing real development.
and this potential link between the tech and, well, billions in physical real estate.
It truly highlights how dynamic, how multifaceted the crypto landscape is right now, June 2025. These headlines, they aren't isolated things, are they?
No, they definitely feel connected.
They influence each other. The macroeconomy sets the stage. Corporate choices shape the industry. Project developments drive specific value.
And real-world adoption validates the tech. It's a constantly moving picture.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought here for you listening. Something to chew on. Given this whole mix we've discussed, the market anticipation, those specific high-risk moves, the project developments, the real-world adoption hints,
Yeah.
which single headline here do you think holds the most significance for where the crypto market might be heading right now? And maybe, what detail or connection in all of this surprised you the most?